All right. Well, the players are ready in the feature match area, so let's go ahead and head on down there, so we don't keep them waiting. On your right, you're gonna see Ryan Hayes' beautiful mug.
One of the stalwarts of the Apex series here.
We also have many special guests this weekend, including Mason Clark, and he's going to be on a backup. He actually got beat down pretty bad yesterday in the Modern Open, but we're here for round number one of the Pioneer Open. Jacob Endicott on your left, playing 5-color elementals. This Omnath heavy deck, as Ross has
Yeah.
said before the broadcast. How many Omnaths are in the deck?
We got 4 Omnath Locus of Creation and 3 Omnath Locus of the Royal, and 1 Omnath Locus of Rage.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna start things off with a Fabled Passage, fetching a tapped Plains. You don't see too many Fabled Passages anymore, but they're quite good with the Omnath Locus of Creation for generating extra mana and extra landfall triggers in general. Llanowar Elves is the play for Ryan Hayes, and we're gonna go back Endicott's way. Here's a Chained to the Rocks and Elf Down.
Yeah, has a good amount of interaction in the deck. 4 Chain to the Rocks, 4 Leyline Binding, 2 Radiant Flames in the main, has the Omnath Locus of the Royal, and 3 Bone Crusher Giant. So a good amount of removal. Now, this is an 80 card deck. You see that Yorion Companion up
Oh,
top.
the rare miss! The rare miss on Oath of Nissa, 3 to the bottom. The classic Augur of Bolus.
And, you know,
Ryan's looking through the window at me, just making the face. All right, that's good. That's good. All right, Temple Garden for Jacob Endicott. Here we go. Shocking, down to 18.
just a great way to start your day. You
Oh,
know,
yeah. Oh, yeah. He's
You'll
going to be
open
out of here.
with.
If he loses this round, he's going home, I bet. Here's a Fable the Mirror Breaker, perhaps the best red card in the format. We're going to make a 2/2 Goblin. Fable the Mirror Breaker is the king of mid-range, allows you to turn some dead extra lands, dead removal spells, or whatever the matchup calls for, turn those into fresh cards, as well as making 2 different 2/2 bodies with very powerful abilities.
Yeah, just a really, not an elemental, but just such a powerful card that you can't really not play it in this deck.
All right, here's Kiora for Ryan Hayes. That miss on the Oath of Nissa has to be backbreaking, and I'm curious if Jacob Endicott is able to capitalize on it. We're going to tick up to Chapter 2, discarding a land.
Ryan still has the Nykthos naturally, so threatening a pretty big turn next turn since he can play out some Devotion, untap with the Kiora, and then use the Nykthos to generate a healthy amount of mana.
All right, so the 2/2 Goblin likely going to attack, but we're not sure if it's going to go at the Kiora or the face. We're going to lead off here with a Leyline Binding on the Kiora. Okay, so that makes it easy. We're going to get a land into play. Looks like Fabled Passage as land number 4 is going to enter untapped when you fetch. We're going to get a treasure. And now we can play this backup Fable of the Mirror Breaker in our hand if we'd like. Or we can hold on to the Fabled Passage for landfall for later.
Have yet to see an elemental out of the elementals deck,
Well, it
but
says elementals, but it looks way more like 4-color control to me.
yeah, 4 color Fable plus removal, and
Yeah. Radiant Flames. Are there even Risen Reefs in this deck? There are, okay.
4 copies.
All right.
You got 4 Voice, 4 Nissa Resurgent Animist, 4 Risen Reef, bunch of Omnaths, a couple Elish Norn, Mother of Machines. That's an excellent one in this matchup. Lets you go way over the top with your triggers.
Honorary Elemental, because it doubles all your cool elemental triggers.
Yeah, and stops things like Cavalier of Thorns.
And opposing Leyline Bindings. Okay, Endicott shuffling here. Finds Mountain. Has treasure and 2 lands untapped. I see a Fable in hand. And here it comes. Makes another Goblin. We're going to go back Ryan Hayes' way with an empty board outside of the dud Oath of Nissa. And we'll see if Ryan is able to do anything powerful on this turn. But he has no real station on the board right now.
And doesn't look like a great hand back. I saw a couple lands.
The turtle!
Ooh.
All right, let's get the tortoise on screen. Blossoming Tortoise, I believe. And now we're going to mill 3. We do find a Nykthos, but it does just bonk off the one in play. Perhaps if you're Ryan Hayes, you have to sequence your lands differently. He has a Boseiju in hand that he's trying to hold, but he got bonked by the turtle just like not having anything to bring back.
Yeah, but it'll keep it'll check these Goblin Shamans, so that's nice. And hopefully he can get some attacks in with it, start generating a little extra mana that way. Yeah, the first miss is definitely an issue.
All right. Well, Ryan's deck not cooperating with him too much, but it looks like Endicott's deck is working on all cylinders. Another Chain to the Rocks on the tortoise. And now Endicott's going to churn in for 4. And then next turn he's going to have the double Reflection of Kiki Jiki combo where he's going to be able to make a bunch of 2/2s on the instep. Right now he's churning up some treasures. 1 card left in hand only. Really wants some way to get some extra card advantage here. Does he have a companion?
Yeah, there's a Yorion.
It's an 80 card Yorion deck. I
That's
didn't know that.
It's a big boy deck.
And then a Nissa Resurgent Animist. I believe that's the name of it. But this is the one from Aftermath. This one is pretty powerful. It has landfall. When a land enters battlefield under your control, add 1 mana of any color. Then, if this is the second time this ability is resolved this turn, you reveal cards from the top of your deck until you reveal an elf or elemental card. Put that card in your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
Interesting. Ryan going for the Cavalier here. Could have used the Boseiju to destroy one of those chained to the rocks if he wanted to. Could have got the Tortoise back. But really wants to get that Devotion in play, I suspect, with the Kiora back as well.
All right, finds Lair of the Hydra off the Cavalier of Thorns as well. So we have some ways to pressure, but needs to basically combo kill quickly, or else these Fable of the Mirror Breaker backsides, the Reflection of Kiki Jiki is going to be quite good.
Yeah, I think we're going to end up making a lot of Goblin Shamans.
All right,
Yeah.
Here it is. Nissa going to make a mana. We're not going to use it on anything, I don't think, because we need to do it. The way that the Reflection of Kiki Jiki works, basically, is during your opponent's instep, you use 1 reflection to copy another. It makes a 2/2, and then you can spend as haste, and so you can spend a mana and make another 2/2, and then another 2/2, and another 2/2. So it takes 2 reflections to really get it going. But instead of going for that, because it's not quite lethal, Endicott is going to go for a big Yorion here, and he's going to blink Chain of the Rocks. I'm curious if he's going to blink the reflections and get 2 more Fables.
I think he wants to go for the combo soon with those.
Okay, so attacking with the 2/2s here, making some treasure just to get more mana.
So trading a Goblin Shaman for 2 damage and 2 treasures.
And then when Chain of the Rocks comes back during the instep, it will eat the Cavalier of Thorns. It did give Ryan back a land, but at this point he's already got 6, so that means he can unlock all the cards in his deck.
Yeah, and you got this big 4/5 flyer out now. I like that play from Endicott. Limits the Devotion on the other side of the battlefield, gives you another quality creature, and you can start going for the shenanigans with double reflection next turn.
All right, Ryan draws. I see Karn the Great Creator. I see Storm the Festival. Looking pretty good. Storm seems like the obvious pick here, but sometimes you want to play your Planeswalkers first. Storm is usually better when you're already comboing.
And the Karn could potentially shut down these reflections. Let me check out what's in the sideboard for old Ryan Hayes.
Most of the time they do have 1 Pithing Needle, so that's a good point. Pithing Needle on Reflection of Kiki Jiki sounds reasonable. Ryan here, going to go ahead and fire off Storm of the Festival, taking a peek at the top 5. He can put 2 permanents into play that have mana value 5 or less each.
Yeah, he does have the Pithing Needle on the board, so that was an option. Instead went for the Storm.
I see Old Growth Troll. I see Oath of Nissa. Some lands. Okay. That's what we're going to go for. And this is why maybe you go for the Planeswalkers instead, because this is a pretty weak Storm the Festival. If that Kiora was already in play, the Old Growth Troll would be drawing a card right now, but we're still churning. Mono green doing mono green things. Finds Cavalier of Thorns off the Oath, and we're going to pass it back.
And he's pretty close to doing some busted stuff. You can play the Kiora next turn, then have enough mana to activate the Nykthos for 6, untap it, go up to 10, play Cavalier with 5 mana floating, and then go from there.
All right, we're going to go back to Endicott's Way. We made 2 reflection copies during the instep, so we can attack for a pretty hefty amount of damage. That Yorion is unchecked in the air. It's going to deal 4. That puts Ryan down to 8. And then Endicott needs to get in with 4 of these 2/2s to finish Ryan Hayes off. I don't think that he quite has it yet.
Jacob Endicott drew another pseudo fetch land, one of that new cycle that immediately sacrifices.
Yep, and he's going to go fetch in here, and it does enter tapped, but it triggers the Nissa Resurgent Animus, and so he's going to be able to reveal cards from the top of his deck until he finds an Elemental, or another Elf, which usually just finds another Nissa.
Yes, that is the Bant part of this cycle from Streets of New Capenna, Broker's Hideout.
Yeah, there's one for all of the clans from Not Strixhaven. What was the new Sapena? And he's just choosing to. I guess he's got more than one in the deck.
Oh, 4. You want fetch lands. This is a deck with a bunch of Omnaths and Nissas.
Right. All right, finds Voice of Resurgence off the Nissa Resurgent Animus. Not the most powerful card here, but still decent.
Yeah, definitely not what Endicott was hoping to hit.
Wanted to hit one of those Omnaths, probably.
Yeah, Omnath, Locust of the Royal, just to hit down the Llanowar Elves would have been nice. Even Risen Reef would have been solid. Instead, he got a 2/2.
All right, so we're going to use the floating mana from the Nissa, and that's going to make a 2/2 goblin that gets a treasure when it attacks. Now Endicott going to use 2 or more mana to play Voice of Resurgence. And all the clone tokens are definitely going to be coming in here, as well as the Yorion. I'm wondering if he wants to fire up anything else. Jacob really trying to figure out the best attack here. One thing is going to get eaten by the Old Growth Troll, but he also needs to hold back the reflection so he can do the reflection trick at the end of turn if he wants. It says, I'm just going to jam in. We're going to put you down to 4 life or 2 life, and you lose your elf, I guess. Something like that. And we're going to move to blocks.
Should be getting a couple treasures, though.
Yeah, maybe it's just lethal. Hold on. Block there, take 2, 4, 6, 8, 12. Yeah, he's dead. That's a GG.
I like GG's.
Yeah, because there's 2 reflections, 2 goblins, and a Yorion. That's 12. 2, 4, 6, 8, 12. I'm going to count it again. 2, 4, there it is. All right. Ryan Hayes packs it in. Game number 1 to Jacob Endicott with 5 color elementals. We should maybe call it something different. Maybe like landfall. I don't know. What do you think?
It's a Risen Reef deck. Once you put Risen Reef in your deck, you're elementals.
All right. Well, as these players are reaching for their sideboards to look over their hot 15, I'm going to get my man Ross to give us his expert analysis on what he thinks each player is going to be sideboarding. Tell me, Ross, what you got?
Okay, starting with Jacob Endicott's deck, we do have the 1 Yorion as a companion, the other 14 cards, 3 Rending Volley, 3 Mystical Dispute, 2 Damping Sphere, 2 Alpine Moon, 2 Rest in Peace, 1 Narset Parter of Veils, and 1 Radiant Flames. Honestly, not a ton of cards I like a lot of. I think the Alpine Moons will come in. I think that's a better way to stop Nykthos than Damping Spheres, since this is also a deck that can cast multiple spells in a turn. You don't want to disrupt your own game plan. You know, Narset can help dig for good removal spells while stopping the card advantage off Kiora. Maybe you want something like that. Normally, Radiant Flames is pretty good against these devotion strategies, but the way Mono Green is specifically situated, it only deals with the mana creatures.
Right. Yeah, that no longer playing things like Burning Tree Emissary and Voyaging Satyr, or even Sylvan Carry to just elves, and then powerful 3-drops like Old Growth Troll.
Yeah.
All right, now Ryan Hayes' sideboard, he's playing Mono Green Devotion. He's got a Karn the Great Creator package, but I know that sometimes the big Mono Green players suggest siding in 1 or 2 cards to come in specific matchups. Is there anything like that that stands out in Ryan's sideboard?
Well, we've got a Haywire Might, an Azeka's Chariot, a Sky Sovereign console flagship, a Cityscape Leveler, a Woodcaller Automaton, a Tormod Script, a Pithing Needle, a Damping Sphere, a Filigree Silex, a Stone Brain, a Pestilent Cauldron, a Transmogrifying Wand, a Chain Veil, a Mightstone and Weakstone, and a Darksteel Citadel. The real question is, which of these would be better to draw than to wish for with a Karn? And that's really the question you have to ask yourself when you're bringing in some singletons playing Mono Green Devotion. I could see one of the 5-drops, either Sky Sovereign or Mightstone and Weakstone, to get some additional interaction into your deck. You still want to leave one of them to be able to wish for, but you don't need both in your sideboard, so one of them could definitely come into the main. Maybe the Cityscape Leveler, if you want a big threat that can also interact well. And that's about it from what I'm seeing. I wouldn't want to bring in Azeka's Chariot. I don't think that's going to be able to force through. That's more for heavy removal strategies, not decks that are going to play to the battlefield as much. And the rest is just kind of, sort of very narrow disruptive cards, so I wouldn't want to bring any of those in. So.
All right. Well, as these players are shoveling up here for game number 2 and taking their mulligans and such, I want to take a moment to talk about the prize structure for today's event. We are paying out $2,000 in cash. 9th through 16th place each receives $65. 5th through 8th get $100. 3rd and 4th each with $150. Second place gets $300, and first place 500 cash money up top. Combined with yesterday's modern $5,000 open, we are giving away $7,000 in cash this weekend for these tournaments, and we'll be doing this type of thing again in about month and a half.
Yeah, last weekend of October.
Last week in October, we'll be having another Apex Gaming weekend here in Caldwell, Ohio. Make sure to come on down. Check out this awesome store. We can comfortably seat around 200 people. And we had a lot of people at our last event, 138 for our main event a month and some change ago. I don't think that those numbers are necessarily sustainable, but it's so exciting to see that kind of growth, especially in this area. And we're looking forward to building some great things here at Apex. So make sure to come on down. All right, players are looking at their opening hands, seeing if they want to take a mulligan. Hayes, I see a turtle, and we're off to the races. Here's Oath of Nissa. No elf. Important to note.
Very lucky to hit off Oath.
Oh, man. Here's Nykthos, Shrine of Nyx revealed. Just a tapped Triumph from Endicott. Hayes draws for turn. Lane go. No Wolfwillow Haven.
So slow hand from Ryan Hayes here in game 2.
I think it's okay to keep hands without a lot of mana acceleration against decks that have a ton of cheap removal. And it seems like Endicott with Chain to the Rocks and a couple of other things, Leyline Binding, it's not necessarily a huge deal if you miss early, because the games are going to go long enough where your late game cards are just going to do some really cool stuff.
And Endicott, nothing going too. Looks like he kept a fairly removal heavy hand and just doesn't have any targets.
All right, top 3 get milled. No land for the Tortoise. Look, Blossoming Tortoise is powerful when it hits, and even when it doesn't hit, it's still okay. It makes the cost reduction on both Nykthos and Lair of the Hydra reduced by 1, and then the Lair gets +1/+1, so when you actually do fire it off to try to kill your opponent, it's 2 bigger. It's pretty great.
Yeah. And, with nothing on Jacob's side of the battlefield, the Blossoming Tortoise looks free to roam, so keep attacking, and, eventually you're going to hit some lands.
Yeah. I know Bobby Fortinelli, he's the mono green savant who has put so many hours into the archetype. And the day the Blossoming Tortoise was revealed on Twitter, I know that I was excited to brew with it. I was on stream that day. I built a cool deck around it with mono green. And he was in chat and he said, I think we should be playing 3. I think this card's awesome. Ryan is only playing 2. That could be an issue for finding the cards, or, it's a brand new card, but mostly it's just we don't know if it's good yet. And so far, hasn't really done the thing it's supposed to do, so.
And there it meets a Leyline Binding, so no additional card advantage coming from the turtle just yet.
Oh, here's a heater. So, end of turn Growth Spiral into Leyline Binding for Endicott really shuts Ryan down. We're going to go back his way, and the Mother of Machines, that Elesh Norn, from, I believe, I want to say...
Phyrexia all will be one.
That's the one. And it's going to suppress all of Ryan's enter the battlefield effects like Cavalier of Thorns. We're going to see if he can beat it. It's a tough one to beat.
Yeah, definitely a very solid one in this matchup, and Ryan looks to not have land 5. He does have a 5th land in hand, but it's a second copy of Nykthos, so a pretty weak turn 5 here for Ryan with just Old Growth Troll, and we'll see what Jacob can do to continue to press this advantage.
I just want to say that this is my experience with Mono Green Devotion a lot of times. The don't keep a hand with an elf, miss on Oath of Nissa, miss on Tortoise twice, and then just die. There's some permanent that you can't kill ever. Here it comes, Elesh Norn. Chain of the Rocks on those go Troll, and then Omnath, Locus of Creation, and Jacob Endicott looks firmly in the driver's seat.
Gets the 2 triggers there, so Ryan Hayes taking 2 damage from that Omnath.
Suppressed. Ability is suppressed from Elesh Norn. Oh, that's Locus of the Royal. That's a blast from the past. All right, back Endicott's way. We're going to play a Ketria Triumph. Going to put a counter on the Locus of the Royal.
2 counters.
Oh, double trigger. Nice, nice.
It's still not quite big enough to rumble with the Cavalier.
Oh, but we got Chained to the Rocks for days.
Jeez, just all the exile-based removal so effective against mono green. See, 2 chains and Leyline Binding.
Who's the Greek character who's chained to the rocks?
Prometheus.
Prometheus. He's the one who gave man fire, right?
Yep, that was his punishment.
Yeah, get wrecked, nerd.
And a hawk was sent every day to peck out his liver.
Oh yeah, and they kept growing back every day.
Yep.
I read that as a kid. It scarred me.
Fun life.
Yeah. Better than being on Twitter.
I think you mean X.
I don't. All right, Ryan Hayes draws for turn. Facing down a board of 2 monsters he can't kill. None of his enters the battlefield abilities work. Not enough mana with Nykthos to get anything done. Drew a Llanowar Elf for the turn, and I don't know if he can get out of this, folks.
Yeah, and with just a land, Endicott can, create 2 lethal attackers. So, gonna be hard to pull back. Such a slow start, and then normally you think if they kept a hand with a slow start, they kept it for a reason because it's gonna hit something nice. Instead, all of his creatures got dealt with on a 1-for-1 basis, which is generally difficult to do against mono green.
Yep.
His Blossoming Tortoise didn't hit. He didn't generate any extra card advantage, and he missed his 5th land drop effectively because he drew a 2nd copy of Nykthos.
All right, we're going to float one with a Nykthos, play land number 6, which is a 2nd Nykthos, which Legend rules the 1st. We're going to play Storm the Festival, and that's the look of a man who's beat. Jacob Endicott has Yorn in hand, 1 lethal attacker right now, can play a land, pump a creature, play Yorn, blink a bunch of stuff if he wants, but forcing a couple of chump blocks here would be ideal. Escape to the Wilds, and now he's going to be able to play multiple lands. He has 6 in play, and when he hits the 8th land, that's Alpine Moon as well. I saw Damping Sphere peeking out of his hand. I feel like he's just got all the bases covered. Is this 5-color or 4-color elementals deck like the real deal, man? This looks pretty nice.
It looked nice. I like the addition of the removal spells. Normally, these elementals decks are pretty non-interactive. This one is playing a lot more removal and then using the card advantage from the elemental engine to pull ahead once you answer your opponent's early threats. I think that's a much more stable and effective game plan than, just flooding the battlefield as quickly as you can.
All right, so Endicott going to put some counters on the Omnath. We're going to go fetching. Those triggers are doubled from the Elesh Norn, or is that only enters the battlefield triggers? Or is the... I guess it's causing the Omnath to trigger, so I guess it does trigger that twice.
Yeah, Elesh Norn doubles from all permanents entering.
Awesome. Very strong card from Elesh Norn. I know that when it was first printed, the Commander Committee talked about its legality in Commander and how the suppression ability was just so difficult to overcome, and it became like a hot button topic, but I don't think it really did anything too detrimental to that format. But what it did do was add a really cool card to Pioneer.
Yeah, it's been one of the premier sort of over-the-top threats. It kind of supercharges a lot of these decks' engines, whether it's this 5-color elementals deck or the so-called Enchanties, Enigmatic Incarnation, Fires of Invention deck. A lot of the just sort of synergistic, permanent, heavy, go over-the-top decks. Because not only does it help your engine, shutting down your opponent's card advantage, getting both is a very, very nice bonus that we really haven't seen on a card before.
All right, well, this might be the window that Ryan Hayes needs to get back into the game. Waffle Stomp, thanks for the sub. So the Old Growth Troll blocks the big Omnath. We're going to go to 1 from the Elesh Norn, but now we have a land that taps for an extra mana, and we get to untap with Nykthos. Jacob Endicott could have maybe ended the game on the spot by playing Alpine Moon or Damping Sphere and locking down the Nykthos, but here Ryan might have a big combo turn.
Yeah, I think Jacob got a little short-sighted there. When you're so far ahead, it's more important to shut the door on your opponent than it is to extend your own battlefield.
Right. All right, so here's Kiora. That's step 1 for having a pretty cool turn. Now, Cavalier of Thorns is a really huge part of the combos in this deck, not only because it finds additional Nykthoses, but it also draws cards off of Kiora, but the Elesh Norn is shutting that down.
Nykthos making 7 mana here.
Yep, and then when we untap with Kiora, we'll go down to 5 and then up to 12. The second elf is Summoning Sickness, so we'll go 12, we can go Karn, the Great Creator, into
Cityscape
Leveler, which blows up the Elesh Norn because it's a cash trigger, which is strange. but it is a way out.
I need to blow up that Omnath first. This is real big.
That's true. That's true. We do know that Endicott has a Yorion in hand. Can cast that next turn and blink a bunch of the Chain to the Rocks on things. And then if the Elishnorn is still in play, it gets to exile 2 creatures per.
Ryan Hayes is at 1 life, so just blinking the Omnath, Locus of the Royal, and getting another trigger, send it upstairs.
Right. Bang,
will
bang.
be good enough.
Well, maybe that's the plan, and maybe Ryan knows that if he doesn't Cityscape Leveler the Omnath, he's going to die.
You also have to be worried
You're in
of
the jungle, baby!
the Omnath Locus of Creation that's exiled from the Escape to the Wilds. If Endicott can find a way to get 3 triggers off of that, you're also dead.
All right. Well, got 12 mana floating. We have Storm the Festival is 10 cost from the graveyard. That might be a way to find more Nykthos, more mana. We'll see if he can do anything. He's only got 2 floating.
Nope.
Nope.
Ryan decides that his hand isn't good enough. Needs to go to the top of the deck.
Well, Kiora gives him a little bit of extra life because he can untap the Nykthos and then go again.
That'll get him up to 8.
Okay. Now Karn can go get a 4. But he's in a worse position now than he was before he cast the Storm of the Festival, so I don't think he's going to be able to get out of this. Karn, down to 4. Gonna go digging.
Not sure if anything is going to be good enough here.
We call this, what do we call this in the business, Ross?
This is the I have no good options, but I'm going to keep thinking about it and hope something materializes.
I was looking for what is garbage time. We are in the point of the game where I don't believe. Look, Ryan might be able to find a way out, but if he had Karn the Great Creator in 12 mana, and now he has Karn the Great Creator in 4 mana, I think that he's dead. That's just my. I mean, even Haywire Might here, it can unlock Cavalier of Thorns or something. The big problem, though, is that the Elishnorn is just suppressing all the enters the battlefield stuff, so all the combo elements of the deck are gone.
Yeah, you just don't have the same capability that, over-the-top capability that you normally do.
Oh, here's a tortoise. We got 2 floating with a tortoise. It's tortoise time. Oh, wait. Ability is suppressed. Ryan does go up to 3 life, so maybe not dead. We'll see if Endicott can find lethal here. Has access to a ton of mana. Plays Voice Resurgence. Goes for Yorion. And we're going to blink this, and when it comes back into play, it's going to deal damage equal to the number of elementals, and Jacob Endicott is your victor here in round number 1, defeating Ryan Hayes, one of the most prominent and powerful mages on the Apex Gaming series, and playing what's arguably the best deck in the format, Mono Green Devotion, but it certainly didn't look like the best deck in that game.
Yeah, it didn't look great there. 2 somewhat weak draws. The Blossoming Tortoises didn't look very good. This is a relatively low land count deck. It's usually about 21 or 22, so you're not going to hit off Tortoise super consistently. Obviously, I think Ryan ran a little bit below average, but an extra land here or there, I don't think was going to turn either of those games around.